Hi there, welcome to the Polkadot Wyckoff session. So as usual, we'll look at the weekly and daily time frame Wyckoff stages for Polkadot. So let's start with the weekly. Here, last week we talked about would Polkadot retest the $5.20 level. As of this moment, there's a little bit of fluctuation. It happened before in March, mid-March. There were like 2 legs up and then 2 legs down. Eventually, in early May, it get to the point where it retested the 520. So the $5.20 level was basically defined by this automatic rally after the selling climax. So I was considering that as a sign of strength. The consideration hasn't changed. Right now, to me, you can call this a test or a spring because it's lower than the previous test, but it doesn't matter. Whatever name we give them, they're just tests. So after this test, it's trying to climb, even though we're seeing quite a bit of like a red sea across the board for altcoins, even Bitcoin. If you have been following my sessions, you know those stages. We will have retracements. So for this one, the intermediate fluctuation could happen because last week we have drawn this line over here. We talked about this triangle. So by the time we get nearer and nearer to this October time frame, these fluctuations are normal. It's basically a stage of build-up before the buying climax if it really comes to the new distribution cycle. If not, back in 2021-22 all the way to late 2023, there was a prolonged period of accumulation. So even after the sign of strength, the accumulations was still happening for like 9 months. So I hope we don't have to wait for 9 months, because from the mid-May sign of strength to October, that's only like 5 months, 4 months, roughly that kind of time window. Because usually for a price to break out, it won't get to the third tip, because the third tip right now here is mid-November. And if you look at these two yellow lines, they form an ascending triangle, and you know, if you go like ask AI or search about it, the ascending triangle, it's a bullish pattern. So if all these textbook theory still hold true, then it's still heading towards a positive sign, so long as the price doesn't go below this yellow slope. So another sign is this volume bar. Currently it's still lower than the previous 2 weeks, but we're still early. There's still 4 days, over 4 days before this candle closes. So by the end of the week, this volume bar may just be well as high as the other two we have. So obviously the trading volume is continuously increasing compared to what we had in June. So big picture aside, when we dive into the daily, last week we put in this buying climax like question mark actually, because it looks like after the sign of strength in the daily charts, this is different from the weekly. Weekly it happened in mid-May. Daily, the mid-May was actually the buying climax for the daily chart, and then this sign of strength we're talking about, it happened just only at the beginning of this month. So while it's heading towards the new buying climax, we see increasing volume over here, right? After this, the volume dropped a little during the second week of July, and then eventually for the first 3 days of this week, the volume is obviously higher than what we had last week. So as of this moment, this retracement, if we consider this build-up period as like the last point of support after the sign of strength, then what we're seeing, the fluctuation we're seeing right now, is the PSY period, the preliminary supply period. Assuming the assumption of the new distribution is still going on. So PSY is a period or a stage before getting to the buying climax. We expect fluctuations within the stage. So here, what we have is this line, this red candle currently. There's still 6.5 hours left. Hopefully this red candle will come back to close above this light blue line over here. So this light blue line has been the upward trend support for the past, how many days, let's see, for the past 14 days, 2 weeks time. It has been the support line for this upward trend. So hopefully by today's close, it climbs back to somewhere around $4.30. That will give us a little bit more comfort as to the path of this buying climax. However, this is not like hopeless scenario even if it closed below, because if, let's say, it finds support somewhere around here and then trade a little bit horizontal, there's still a possibility that it climbs up from there. It's just some consolidation before the actual the thrust upwards. So I want to quickly check this channel again. So the Keltner squeeze, that's where the squeeze happened, where the orange kind of bracket the purple lines. So that's when the price shot up. Currently, there's no, the orange lines are well within the purple. So supposedly there shouldn't be a crazy downtrend. So with these indications that we have, I would more inclined to still give it a little bit more time and develop along this price range around $4.95 to around $4.50. So there may be a range bound between these two lines. So let me draw the line. So by next week when we come back, we have a reference what we talked about this week. So this is, just want them to stay within the current interval. And this was the last LPSY, that's $4.65 or $4.60. So these two lines over here, let's change this to orange. This one, let's say it's green. If it goes above the green line, that's a good sign. If it goes below the orange, then the next support will be back to $3.46. Certainly, if you're seeking for the price to go up, we don't want to see it go through the orange line. Currently, it's finding support over there. We hope it to close above it, and then even if it does trend like range bound activities, that's still normal as a build-up process going to the buying climax. So pretty long story for Polkadot, whether it can still go and hit the $5.20 line or the mark over there at the yellow line. It was similar level during the mid-May buying climax. So hope it goes still heading towards that way, even though we've got a little bit of fluctuation in the middle. If you have set stop loss, today's activity might have forced you to take your profit if you entered your order somewhere earlier this month. So let's see whether it can find support and eventually head back to the buying climax. So